Hello and welcome to episode 72 of Tom's Hirschsprung's podcast. I am delighted to welcome Rebecca Wichert to the podcast. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You are obviously all the way from America, and delighted to have you on. We are going to talk about your daughter, Valerie, and her long segment Hirschsprungs. We've obviously talked a little bit beforehand, and really interested to hear a lot of different parts of this story. There's a lot of medical terms that I hadn't heard of before. Some people may have done things like MLBs, and we'll go through MLBs and what MLBs are, and it's not Major League Baseball like I thought it was at the start. Um, but yes, we'll go through lots of different medical terms, and obviously Valerie's story. Would you like to kind of take us from the very beginning?
Yes, Valerie, we had a healthy pregnancy. Everything was going good. Um, and we even got genetic testing done, and all of that came back normal. So it was interesting when she was born because we had no idea, what was going on. But yeah, she was 5 weeks early though, um, which was a little scary, but they said don't worry about it. 5 weeks is, she should be coming out healthy. Um, but yeah, the labor was really long, and she actually got stuck. So that was very scary. So they finally got her out. And the weird thing is she didn't cry at all. Like she didn't make a sound, but her eyes were wide open. So I was like, oh my gosh, is everything all right? They're like, yeah, she's fine. Just some babies don't cry. And I was like, okay. So yeah, my late husband and I got sent to the hospital room to wait for Valerie while they did all the checkups and made sure she was good to go. And then it was about 2 hours later they came in, and we hadn't seen Valerie yet. And they said that they had bad news. She was vomiting bile, and they tried to feed her, and she would immediately vomit. So we're like, oh my gosh, what does that mean? Um, so what they had to do is say, hey, we're going to send her to Children's Nebraska here. And they were like, we're taking her right away. And then they passed the hospital door, and there she was. They said, you can say bye if you want. I'm like, absolutely. I'm sitting there just having a baby a few hours ago, and they're taking her away to a different hospital. Luckily, the children's hospital was only about 20 minutes away, 15. So the nurses checked me out, and they're like, hey, I know you want to be with your baby, so you can leave. I was like, I sure? Like, holy moly. Like, I just had a baby, and then they let me leave. So I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm tired. My feet are swollen. I'm like, what's going on? But yeah, they discharged us, which I was thankful for because obviously I didn't want to just sit there worrying about what was going on. And then, yeah, we got there. They said they were immediately taking her in for surgery to see what was going on, if there was an obstruction or, just something that didn't seem right. They wanted to just check everything out. So yeah, we're there. I'm tired. I had to be pushed around in a wheelchair because I couldn't even walk. I think that just had to do with the swollen feet, though. But yeah, so we're just waiting and waiting, and while they're in there, they're going through and taking biopsies just in case. They bring her back. And at this point, she didn't have anything. And she was in like a room with a blue light, and we couldn't touch her. We couldn't do anything. We go in, excuse me, my voice is getting cracky. But yeah, so she just kept throwing up, and she kept throwing up. And they're like, we really just have to wait and like see if she passes meconium. And if she passes meconium, then we're good. I'm like, okay. So they immediately put in a PICC line in her hand because she wouldn't keep anything down. So they had to get her on the TPN, all the fluids. So that was really terrifying seeing a little baby with the PICC line in and like not eating. So then I'm checking her diaper constantly. We're there for a couple days and no updates. And it seems to what looks like meconium in her diaper. So we're like, oh my gosh, something's in there. So they're like, okay, well, this is a good sign. So then they keep trying to mouth feed her. They put the NG tube in her nose and try to do that, but nothing will stay. Nothing, nothing will hold down. She's just vomiting. And that's scary because, you're just feeding her and it's going in and then just immediately coming out. So I'm like worried that she's not getting everything she needs. Um, but yeah, after that, they decided to go back in. They're like, okay, we're going to take a peek because some of the samples came back um, with no ganglion cells, but they didn't know how far up. So they only took a few just in the rectum, just like right in the just beginning. They said we didn't find anything in there, so we're going to go do another surgery and take samples throughout the whole small, large intestine and the stomach. So they did that, and while they were in there, they placed a G tube just to get things moving through so that she wasn't vomiting all the time. And at this point, we're like, we don't even know what's going on. Like what condition could this be? Like at first, it thought maybe it was CF, and they like a few different things that I had never even heard of, and I can't even remember the names that they had said from the beginning, but all of them didn't seem as bad. And then Hirschsprung's was at the end. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the one I really hope she doesn't have because, I immediately just start researching all about it. And then it's just like, okay, well, then she could have a stoma and then she could have, I'm thinking, okay, a stoma is fine, but I'm reading all these other things like, okay, well, some of it couldn't work at all. And if that's the case, they can't eat and TPN, like they could be on TPN, but it really messes with your liver. So we're just like freaking out and hoping it's not that. And then while we're waiting, they actually did genetic testing on us to like start moving through to be like, hey, let's see if there's any gene in there that can identify like what is going on. But those results took forever to come back. So we're just so, waiting and waiting. So then we get the samples back from what she took when she was in there getting surgery. And oh my gosh, I can still remember they had this thing where they could like do it immediately. Like they got the samples and then they put it on something and take it back and they can look to see if it's moving or not, or if there's any cells in there. So it was really quick this time. So she was still in surgery and we were in the waiting area, still at the hospital. We've been there every day. I was on maternity leave, so I didn't leave the hospital. I was there 24 hours a day, just sleeping in a chair, waiting to find out if everything's all right. And then, yeah, so the surgery is happening. The surgeon comes out and is crying. And I'm like, oh no, did something happen in there? Like, I'm freaking out. And she just walks up and is like, I'm so sorry. But she has nothing in there. Maybe about 5 centimeters in her, sorry if I pronounce this wrong, in her duodenum. And it's just scattered, just barely in there and then into her tummy. And she was just like, I'm so sorry. This is going to be a really, really long road. And I don't know what else to tell you, but she's in recovery now and we'll bring her up when she's done. The surgery went really well. checking everything. You know, you're always scared a little baby has to go under anesthesia, and then, you so yeah, she comes and tells us all that stuff. So now we're just like, our world is completely different. We're like, what is going on? We still just didn't, I mean, no, it was our first baby. Like, um, so yeah, we go back up to the room, wait for Valerie, and the nurses and doctors confirm that it's Hirschsprung's. So we're like, oh, the one we didn't, that we were like, oh my gosh, I hope it's not that one. And they're like, and it's actually one of the most severe kinds. And we're like, oh my gosh. So what does that mean? They're like, she will most likely never even be able to absorb nutrients at all because of the lack of ganglion cells. So she will be on TPN for life. We're like, oh my gosh. And then we start freaking out about that because, TPN can mess with your liver. And then if you need a transplant, then you have to get the liver and the intestinal transplant. And then everything we were reading was just like intestinal transplants are very rare and very hard to do. So we're like, oh my gosh, like everything was just all this info at once. And it was a lot to handle, but I wasn't I wasn't going to leave her side at all. But yeah, I'm just reading over my notes.
No, it's fine.
Um,
That must have been obviously a huge a huge shock because you kind of go right, okay, the you were saying sort of the worst case scenario being Hirschsprung's, or it could have been obviously lots of other things. Um, and then doing the research as well, and research. I know we were talking a little bit as well off air about research is great in a lot of ways,
mhm,
and trying to find things out and other people's experiences, but it also can scare you silly as well. That's the sort of
yeah,
the other end of research, and I guess to start with, you were probably at the latter.
yeah, yep. We
But yeah,
yeah, it. I know, and then I mean, literally anything you Google anything, it's just like, oh my gosh, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so it was terrifying. And I'm like recalling now some of the other ones too. They were saying they're like maybe she has Crohn's or like stuff like that. So we're like, okay, because we did have some of that ran in the family. Um, and then so basically after we find this out, we get the genetic testing done from my late husband and I, and we don't have the gene. Neither of us do. So we were like, it was just a weird thing that happened at conception that was incredibly rare and doesn't run in the family. So we were all like, okay, so how does this happen? Because everything you read about it is genetics. We were both like, okay, well, one of us must have it, or one of us in the family. And I'm like, well, my family has a lot of, intestinal problems like Crohn's, IBS, stuff like that. And uh Nate's didn't have really any. So, I was thinking it was me the whole time, but it was neither of us.
No,
So that threw another thing in there, like, oh my gosh, this thing we've never heard about, we don't have, and she just randomly has.
yeah,
So it was shocking
absolutely,
to us.
absolutely. I mean, it's again from the people I've spoken to. There are some people where it has run from sort of grandparent to parent to child, and there are some people that have absolutely um, no genetics of Hirschsprung's whatsoever, or no family history whatsoever, and they're the only ones that have it. Their children don't have it. Their parents don't have it. I mean, in my case, I'm the only one in my family. I have three brothers. They all don't have it. My parents never had it. Nobody ever in my family has ever had it apart from me. So, in terms of, people always ask the question, oh, is it genetic? And the genuine answer, and this came from a doctor I spoke to um, a couple of months ago at a Hirschsprung's conference, and he said, we simply just don't know. And I think that's probably the best way to put it at the moment because
Right.
in my experience of talking to people, I can't make any sort of heads or tail of it because there are so many different examples where it has happened here and it hasn't happened here. And I just think, yeah, I just think it, there needs to be more testing done, and whether we'll ever have an answer, I have no idea. But I think that's probably, yeah, probably the safest way to go at the moment.
Yeah. Oh man, I hope one day we will though have an answer to. And it for me too. I was one of those people who, when I got pregnant, I was just like, I'm gonna eat really healthy. I'm not gonna eat processed meat. I was like, I want to make sure everything is perfect. So it was just weird that that this happened after I was like so careful about everything I did. I wouldn't even eat like raw cheese, or like cheesecake, because I was like terrified the eggs that were in there would, what I mean, would give me get me sick, so I was really careful about everything too. So it's just weird that it just showed up randomly out of nowhere, and it would be wonderful in the future if we could pinpoint that down and figure out like where did this come from.
Hopefully, hopefully. I mean, there's lots of research being done through places like Reach and what have you, and and there's lots of and Older Hay in Liverpool are doing lots of research as well, and hopefully one day we will find out. But that's another thing. You raise an interesting point there when people talk about, oh, was it something I ate during my pregnancy? Was it something I did during my pregnancy? And again, all of the doctors and nurses I've ever spoken to have gone, no, it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely not your fault in any way, shape, or form. It's never something you ate or you accidentally ate chocolate one day. No, it isn't that. So it's it is just it is just rotten luck, unfortunately. And I know that's a
Right.
sort of, yeah, it is a in a lot of cases there are obviously other cases as well, but yeah, it is just, yeah, a lot of cases it is just, it's the luck of the draw, unfortunately.
Yeah, we got the best luck though, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah, where was I at here? We were talking about, oh, the genetic stuff. So after that, um once we found everything out, um they said that we need to go in and create a stoma. And they said they want to keep the non-working intestines though. So they were going to do a double. So they were going to come out and do a mucus fistula, so that we could irrigate it every day and um, potentially save it. So she had to go in for another surgery after all of this. And then in between these, so she had her initial surgery, and her initial one caused her throat to close. And it, from scar tissue, I believe that the tube that they used was too big, which they had said that they used the smallest one. But I don't know. It was kind of weird there. And so she comes out, and then she's like not breathing very well, and she's having late. She's like, her breathing is labored, and she, like, her oxygen level went down to like 60, and it was just really really scary. So they're giving her these breathing treatments, and they get the professional in to look and said that her throat was the size of a coffee straw. So like teeny teeny teeny. And they had to go in and they call it an MLB. That's the one we were talking about, not Major League Baseball.
Not Major League Baseball. No, it does have
Um,
another name, doesn't it? I think.
it does. It's hard to pronounce, so I'm not sure uh, if I'm saying it correctly, but it's called a microlaryngoscopy and bronchoscopy. So what they do is they go in and they kind of shave off the scar tissue. But the problem with that is, if they do that, it wants to grow back. So it kept growing back. And she kept having to get those MLBs done before like the major surgery, because if she couldn't breathe. We had to get that taken care of first. So that was really scary. Um, so yeah, she had a total of 7 of those, which our doctor told us. He said that it was actually really funny. The surgeon was amazing. He said that that's the most MLBs he's ever had to do in his career on a single person.
Wow.
So he said that next time he buys his next car, he's going to name it Valerie. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow. So yeah, so that was a whole new thing. I didn't even know what that was either. Like, I didn't even know that could happen with your throat. So she's just like, just sitting here with her throat closing and her intestines not working. We're like, okay, now what's happening? We're getting extra surgeries that have nothing to do with Hirschsprung's. So it was just really scary.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
she pulled through with that though. She did great. She hasn't had an MLB in a few years, so it's been good.
No, that's fantastic. That's really, really good to hear. There was another point that you made about genetic testing and
Yeah.
getting because you said when you were pregnant you got genetic testing.
Yes.
Was there a specific reason for that? Because I know you said you didn't have any history of Hirschsprungs or whatever.
No, okay, this sounds bad, but I honestly wanted it done because when you get genetic testing done, it also lets you know what the gender is early.
Ah,
I wanted to
nice.
know the
Okay.
gender. I
I
was
didn't
very
know
excited.
that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that at all. Okay,
Hmm.
no, I just thought that was very interesting because I see a lot of people who a few people I've interviewed who have Hirschsprungs and then they have Hirschsprungs and then they fall pregnant and they think, oh, I'll get genetic testing because then I'll know if my child's going to have Hirschsprungs. But obviously, if you having no family history whatsoever of Hirschsprungs, yeah,
Hmm.
no, I thought that was, but I didn't realize that you can then find out the gender of your baby early.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a fairly newish thing, like within the last couple of years. But yeah, I don't know if they offer that in the UK, but they do it in America. So I was immediately like, yes, I would love all of that done because I want to know what the gender is before you can even see, you know what I mean? So
Oh,
yeah, it was
oh,
exciting getting everything back. Everything was good. Nothing wrong with the genetic side, and that we were having a little girl.
oh, that's fantastic. No, I had absolutely, I had no idea about that at all.
Yeah.
Um, I wonder if anybody else listening does, but whether it's just me. But yes, so so seven MLBs and three
Hmm.
intestinal surgeries. Valerie's also, I don't remember saying that she's had six central line placements
Yes.
as well. Would you like to talk a little bit more about those?
Yeah. So she got her initial line after they realized her intestines didn't work at all. So she has the mucus fistula, the stoma, a G2, and then the line. Initially, they had it up in her neck, and that was not a good place for her. She would pick at it, try to get at it. So they're like, okay, we can't send this baby home with the line right there. So, you know, after the initial couple surgeries, because she had the pick line for quite a while, um, just, but that kept coming out and coming loose and just leaking and whatnot. So yes, they did that the initial one, and then before she went home, they placed a different one, a little lower down on her chest. It was a little easier to deal with, and I researched like vests to get for her to bring home and all that, and they actually gave us a little vest to come home with, which was nice. But lots of washing, lots of that. So I had to get more, and I found some nice ones on Etsy and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, so she had 2 of the surgeries from the beginning with the line, and then after that, we so that she gets several more like later on in life as well. But those were the 2 main ones from when she was a baby.
Right. Fantastic. Yes. No, it's yeah, because I just thought that was she's had several procedures as well
Yes,
in her very
so
short time so
many.
far.
She's so strong. She's such a strong little girl. She's a little spicy too, so she fights through it.
I've always
I
found
can
that with children with Hirschsprungs that are many of them end up having really high pain thresholds and end up just being really really tough people. And I guess you found that with Valerie as well.
yes. I actually I found out something just recently that's super interesting about um like gut problems and Hirschsprungs in general and serotonin in your brain.
Yeah.
So yeah, apparently there's a connection. So if like with Valerie, she has like barely anything working, so she's not getting the serotonin like because they work together. They go hand in hand. So if you don't have that, so that might be why she's a little spicy because the serotonin there is lacking. I just talked with a psychologist who was like we talked about Val and she said, yeah, they're connected. She's like, have you ever wondered why people with IBS are in such a bad mood? I was like, no, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah,
But yeah,
no, I have read a similar piece of research on that, and I definitely think from my own experience that there is a strong correlation between serotonin and gut issues, gut health.
mm-hmm.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. Um, so if we pick up the next part of the story, so Valerie's had her procedures. Would when around or when was she then sort of allowed to go home?
Okay, yeah. So we were only in the hospital for 3 months,
Okay.
so that wasn't too bad. She was set to get released, and then she got enterocolitis.
Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah, they so initially they put her stoma and her fistula directly next to each other on top of each other. Um, and they didn't know what to do with it, so they started bagging it together. And then they're like, "That's bad news. You can't do that." Like they had been doing that for a while, and they're like, "You can't bag those together." So I think that's how she got enterocolitis. So that pushed things back. And then she actually had to get another surgery before we left to place them on opposite sides, so they were a little further away. Um, but they were still very close on a little baby. So trying to get two bags on each was so scary and terrifying. So my late husband and I had to learn how to put on two that were so close. So we had a lot of leaking issues and oh my gosh, this was scary, but we did it. And I think I would say I'm a pro ostomy bag now. Like I put them on, it takes me about 3 minutes. It's great.
And you found over sort of the years a few little sort of tips and tricks with colostomies and how to sort of um help, I guess would be
Yes.
yeah. Would you like to share a couple of those?
Yes. So Cavalon, I don't know if you guys use Cavalon. That is amazing skin protectant barrier that you put on around the stoma. And then, okay, so if you have very like liquid output, this changed our lives because we would go through, I mean, insurance didn't cover extra bags. You know, it was weird because they only covered one bag, even though she had two. Like they were like, no, they just wouldn't do it. So we had to end up spending way too much extra money on that. So we're like, we need to find ways to keep this from leaking. So we put tampons in the bag and then it absorbed everything and she didn't leak. And it made a huge difference because, you know, the leaking would cause like chemical burns on her tummy and then the bags wouldn't stick. And it was just like an ongoing process. We would have to do like 12 bag changes a day for each side. It was just like all we did. So yeah, tampons, if it's very liquidy, use those. It's a life changer. Also, we have this ring barrier stuff that's pretty gummy like that we put it directly in her belly button because it's so close to her belly button to kind of make it same level as her skin. I know a lot of people use the stoma powder, but that doesn't really work with Valerie. So we just do the Cavalon, the ring barrier in her belly button. And then for us, the goal was to make sure the stomach is completely clean and dry
Yeah.
and like wash it. You can't just like a wipe of water. No, it has to be nice and let it dry. It might leak while you're trying to change it, but drying it is what is, very important. Um, and then warming the bag. Warming the bag has changed a lot. So what I do is I sit on the bag while I'm getting everything else ready. So it's like nice and warm. And then I hold it on, and that has also made a huge difference. So make sure it's a little warm, not too hot. You don't want to burn your skin, but
No, no,
it's um it's made
it's fantastic.
yeah, it's been
And
awesome with that.
and makes total sense as well. I mean, everything you said there about making sure it's dry, making sure you warm the bag, um, having issues with leaking as well. Yeah, it makes total sense. So if anybody's listening, then by all means try those tips because they sound like a bit of a game changer for you.
Oh, yes. My nurse actually, so Valerie's had a nurse since we got home after 3 months. And she tells everybody that trick. And she's just like, I tell all these parents and they're so excited about it. So I'm like, yay, I'm glad I could help. So if I could help anyone else, tampons work great.
Well, I'm sure you have. I'm sure there will be. There's plenty of people I know that listen to this show, who have young children with whether they have long segment, whether they have a different type of Hirschsprungs, um, who have colostomy bags, and because I get messages from people who listen to the show each day, and they tell me about bags and this, that, the other, and if they are listening, then by all means try those out because they sound really beneficial. So no, thank you so much
Yeah.
for
And
sharing.
also, when she was a really little baby, which helps, is Duoderm, if you've ever heard of that. It's it's like skin like, and when she was a baby, we used that a lot because the baby bags didn't have like the nice outside that helps stick to the skin. So Duoderm also was a huge help.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. No, that's fantastic. Thank you ever so much for that. So you went home after sort of 3 months or so.
Yep, we went home
Um,
3 months. It was a couple days before my birthday, so I was so excited. I was like, all I want for my birthday is my baby to come home, and she did. So that was great. But yeah, the moment we got home, it was terrifying. And we're like, oh my gosh, she's home. But now, how do we do all this? We had to learn how to do her TPN. She was on TPN 22 hours a day. So she had a 2 hour window. So that was very, very scary. But our nurse, Bethany, would come at any time, would call her and be like, I don't know how to do this. This is scary. Like she did all the dressing changes. Um, and yeah, shout out to Bethany. She is the best nurse I have ever met. Amazing superhero. Yeah, so she really helped change our lives, and she's still with us. So she's still our nurse. So she's been there since day one, but she taught us all the stuff. And yeah, it was very overwhelming though, trying to learn how to do everything. But we did it, and once you get the hang of it, it's not as scary as you think.
no, no, and I imagine it just becomes every day for you.
Oh yeah, it's like it's so easy.
Yeah,
It obviously you have to be sterile and keep everything clean. It's difficult with a child that's moving around a lot, but hey, yeah, you learn how to do it. It seems really scary at first, but it's not. That's the way that they live, and that's you have to make it normalized almost that it's not this big scary thing because all my siblings, I mean, not all of them, but everybody at first was kind of scared to
yeah,
like be around Val or like pick her up. Like, how do I pick her up with this stuff? How do and she's just like any other kid.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to be a little
Absolutely.
extra careful, but don't be scared. It's fine.
No, absolutely. Yeah, the Hirschsprung's children are a lot. Yes, obviously you have to be a bit careful, and there's differences that we have that other people don't. But to To a lot of people, we are normal. We do everything that everybody else does, and and should be treated as such.
Hmm.
Um, Now, I I usually have transitions and are able to transition from one point to the next, but I guess for this next point, um, there is probably no transition to it that's going to do any justice or be um, worthy. It's quite a tricky subject. You mentioned a couple of times your late husband, and I know you wanted to um, talk a little bit about him.
Yes. So him and I, his name was Nate. We were together for 14 years. And we were married for 4, though. He took forever to ask me to marry him, but I stayed with him because I just loved him so much. I was like, whatever. But yeah, so it was really hard on both of us, just like dealing with all Val's stuff. And just like her leaking all the time. And like her pump would go off all night until we got an IV pole. So, oh my gosh, if you don't have an IV pole or they didn't send you home with one, that has changed my life with the air bubbles because those literally all night they would just go off and nobody even told us to get an IV pole. So I was like, that would have been very helpful to know. And luckily, the only reason I got an IV pole, this is later, I had a daughter, another daughter who was born early, who had to go home with the NG tube, and they gave us an IV pole for that. And I'm like, I'm going to use that for Valerie. That's amazing. So when she was done with it, obviously, but yeah, so it was a lot of stress with Val and a lot of late nights. Val um, also has a ton of allergies, so we couldn't really go anywhere together or do anything really. So someone always had to be with Valerie. We're the only 2 people who knew how to do her medical stuff. So it was just kind of hard for both of us to just try to like live our lives as well. Like we barely had time together alone. And one of us was with her, taking to appointments, doing all this. And also, she's allergic to CHG. So we CHG like to put her dressings on
Ah, okay.
and like to clean. Like some people use betadine. So that's another whole mess too. But yeah, so we're home doing great, besides being terrified of everything and trying to make sure we're doing everything right. Um, and then I become pregnant again when Valerie was 18 months old. So I'm like, holy moly. We weren't planning on having another one until, Valerie was a little older and we get all her stuff figured out. So yeah, that was a surprise. Um, so yeah, everything is, going well. My other daughter comes early. I'm in the hospital. And then, you know, Nate's with Val while I'm in the hospital. And she had to be in the NICU the whole time. And I was just, I wanted to see her and whatever. So once I got released from the hospital, it's about Christmas and Valerie scratches her line off, like rips it open in the middle of the night. And we're like, oh my gosh. And it looks terrible. We wake up and we're freaking out. Like, oh my gosh, how did she do that? Because we always put gloves on her hands when she's like those baby gloves. And then I don't know if you call them the same thing where you're at, but they're called posies that we just like put around to like Velcro around so that she couldn't get them off. So she ends up ripping them off with her teeth in the middle of the night
Ow.
and scratches everything. And she has so many allergies. She has eczema. She's allergic to like every animal in the world, every food in the world, which she doesn't eat. So that's just crazy. She's so allergic to everything. So yeah, she rips this off. We're freaking out. I have our newborn other baby, Violet, in the hospital, still in the NICU. We're like, oh my gosh, should we call immediately? And we're like, she ripped it off. Can we start an antibiotic right away? And they're like, no, we can't. Just give it a few days and see how it goes. I'm like, okay, well, can't we? And I understand that because it's, you can get antibiotics, if you take them too often, you can, So so yeah, we're like, okay, well, fingers crossed. It's right before Christmas. Let's hope this doesn't happen. And sure enough, she gets 103.5 fever. We have to rush her to the hospital. And that was her first line infection ever. It was very terrifying. We had that one night in the ICU. There was nothing but a single chair, and we just slept on that. And we were in the hospital for about a week, and we come home, and Nate's just feeling so guilty about it. He thinks it's his fault that he put her in the wrong pajamas, which there isn't a wrong type of pajamas. We had zip and snap. And he thinks because of the snap pajamas, she was able to like snap it open, which absolutely was not the case. I mean, she's, pajamas you can take them off, whatever. So he's feeling really guilty about it. And we talk about it a bunch. And I thought it was my fault because I gave her a bath. And I was like, what if some of the poopy water like got on? So we're going back and forth, like, okay, it's neither of our faults. We're fine. It happens. And it's just a one line infection because they had made us believe that she only had a certain amount of spots you can get a line. And since she had only 4 spots to get her line. And so we're thinking, oh my gosh, one is wasted. It's gone. Now she has 3 spots left, which now I found out that is absolutely not the case. You can actually, like my surgeon now, because she's had several line infections since my husband has passed away. He's reused the same one. He's done so many crazy things. He's amazing. So yeah, his goal is to get her to 80. So you can reuse lines depending, obviously, if it's no good. But had so much misinformation. We thought like, wow, we just took off one slab of her life. You know what I mean? So yeah, he was feeling really guilty about that. We both talked and we're like, we're there for each other. We'll get through this. It's not the end of the world. So yeah, literally when Violet was a month old, so still in the NICU, we would take turns going to see her. And yeah, one night he decided he didn't want to see her, which I thought it was weird because we were just taking turns. He's like, you should go see her instead. I'm like, well, I just saw her yesterday, like all day. You can go see her. And he was just like, no, I don't want to. And I'm like, okay, well, why don't we just both take a break together because we never get time together to do anything. So she'll be fine one day in the hospital alone. And so we watched her favorite show and whatnot. And then, we went to bed and kissed like normal. And I wake up in the morning and yeah, his car is still in the driveway. And so back note, my dad had passed away when Valerie was like right when we got back from the hospital, which was also traumatic. I had to rush to Wisconsin, which is 500 miles away, to go see my dad before he passed away, and leave my late husband with Valerie, a newborn, at home so that was also crazy. But yeah. Anyway, so my mom didn't want to be alone, so she moved here from Wisconsin and lived with us and was helping out with Valerie and everything. So back to the story. So I woke up and I got my mom, and we ended up finding Nate. He had taken his own life. And yeah, that just completely changed my life, Val's life. It was the guilt of thinking, because of all the misinformation we got about her lines, which that's not the case. I want everybody to know there's options. There are so many different places you can put a line. I know there's only a certain amount of good veins, but there's so many cool tricks that my new doctor did too. They said they did it where they cleared the infection but kept the line in. And then once the infection was clear, they put in a temporary one and then replaced it completely. Same vein, same everything. So hey, it's not the end of the world. There's options, and science is getting so much better. I'm seeing stuff about stem research and all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, if you are feeling scared, And don't ever think anything that you do with yourself, with your child who has a central line, that is not your fault. It's not your fault. Things happen. Germs are sneaky, they get in there. Valerie's scratchy. So it's just it happens, and she's still thriving and living, and she's had a couple line infections since then.
Yeah,
So it's never your fault, no matter what.
absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that and being brave enough to talk about that because I know it's an incredibly difficult subject. I know it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway that obviously very, very sorry to hear about his
You,
passing. Um, but you are right. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And I know we talked a little bit beforehand about you do so much research,
yes.
um, so much research on lines, on Hirschsprungs, on procedures, on all sorts. And if there's something I think anyone can take away from this, it would be to definitely do your own thorough research, and avoid that misinformation, I guess.
Yeah, they had told us that Valerie wasn't going to live past 2. So that was also, and she's almost 4. But yeah, it was so much stuff that we just didn't know. So yeah, research is amazing. Like, they didn't know what to do with Valerie after she was born. I did my own research and found um, a professional who does Hirschsprungs actually in my home, or not my hometown, in the city I'm living in currently. He happened to be right here, and they didn't even tell me. So I found him. His name is Dr. Mercer. He is amazing. He's still currently doing like research and stuff on it, and he has changed our lives. Like, if I wouldn't have found him, I have no idea if Valerie would even still, like, be here, because none of the doctors knew anything about what to do. So after finding him, yeah, do your research, because he's changed our lives and has so many cool ideas of what to do with Valerie now and how to get, yeah, it's just, he's wonderful. And yeah, I highly suggest researching. And there's people out there that, have this, similar or not similar or anything, that can just give each other tips and advice. And I found some Facebook groups to be so beneficial. Um, so yeah, just looking up stuff, just find out. It's great, and be your own advocate. So
Definitely, definitely. And just while we've got sort of about a minute or so before we wrap up, just on Valerie again. I know you
yeah.
said that she's 4 now, she's thriving, she's doing really well. Um, Hopes for her sort of in the future. What do you see for her?
Yes. So her last surgery, which was in September, um, they went in and they recited her G tube. They recited, and they removed her mucus fistula. So now she only has one stoma. And they they didn't remove it. So she still has all of her non working intestines, and they put them inside to drain, which is amazing. I'd never heard of it. But my doctor was just like, let's try it. And it's been going great. And while he was in there, he said that her non working intestines were moving. So I was like, what does that mean? And he's just like, we're gonna just keep getting her, because she still vomits a lot. Like, she vomits a lot still because she's so short. Like, I mean, so long segment. Like, she has very little working intestines. But the fact that they were moving was just amazing. So he, in the future, he wants to try to slowly add more and more bowel and try to reconnect and avoid a transplant.
That would be amazing. That would be
So yeah,
absolutely fantastic.
yeah, things
Oh,
are looking up. Like,
that's brilliant. No, so pleased.
mm,
But no, thank you ever so much for joining me, for sharing Valerie's story, for sharing a bunch of hints and tips as well, which I think will be greatly appreciated by a lot of people who've been listening to this. And
I
I know,
actually, real quick, I had one
yeah,
last tip.
go for it.
So, like the little ties that come with girls' dresses that you use to like wrap around? I, so I have a little mini backpack that I bought for her that she carries her own TPN and walks around in now.
Yeah,
And I wrap the tie around to keep it from her taking it off. And then when she sleeps, I also wrap the tie around so that it prevents it from, like, I'm always so scared, oh, it's gonna like wrap around her neck or something. You know what I mean? And that has been really helpful, and it helped keep it in place and not, and make it not uncomfortable, so you're not laying on like everything. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's a lovely sentiment to finish on. Thank you ever so much for joining me. And I wish you and Valerie and all your family the very, very best for the future.
Yes, thank you so much. It was wonderful talking to you.